In this video, I'm going to show you how to decorate this beautiful cake with the elegant bow topper. And stay tuned to the end of the video where I'm going to give you a little bit more detail about the cake, and I will also let you know how much I charged. So let's get started.
Now, I did make a video where I go into detail on how to do the bottom tier. That will be linked below, but I'll give you a synopsis. So I covered the cake in fondant, and I do have a video where I go into detail on how I cover cakes in fondant. I will link that below. And then I used an impression mat just to transfer these lines onto the fondant, and then I used my Dresden tool to deepen all of the lines. And then my hands are clean, and I used my knuckle to make these little indents at the intersections, and then took my Dresden tool just to make the little tufting marks on all of the intersections, and then took some little silver dragées and put them in the center. And again, I will link that video, but here's what the bottom tier looked like, and let's continue. Now, I forgot to record me putting the impression on this top tier. I have this line impression mat. Mine does have a crack, but I will link that in the description for you. And I press this against the side of the cake just to get the impression on there. You do need to use a crusting buttercream. This will not work with a meringue buttercream. So now I'm going to stack the cake. I got that out of the refrigerator, and I'm using my little ruler here to measure how tall these straws should be. And then I'm going to cut that little marker off and dispose of that and put all the straws in the bottom tier. Make sure that it's level. Get down a little bit of icing, and then I'm going to put that top tier on there. That cardboard circle is going to sit atop the straws and prevent the cake from collapsing. I do have a video where I go into detail on how I stack cakes. That will be linked below. Now I'm rolling out this fondant really long for the border and using my ribbon cutter to cut this long strip. And I'm using some piping gel around the base of that tier, wrapping this around, and where it meets in the back, I'm just going to take my X-Acto knife and cut it and press the seam together, then using my palette knife to press that down, making sure it's nice and even. Now I want to make the bow, so I'm rolling blue fondant out really thin. This does have Tylose powder mixed into it, and I measured how tall these tails have to be on the cake. It was about like 8 inches or so, so I'm just making sure that these are 8 inches tall and probably about 5 or 6 inches wide, and I'm just eyeballing this. And then I just want to cut the angle for the tail, so I'm starting up on one side and coming down to a point, and then I did the same thing on the other side, trying to make them pretty even. And now I have skewers here to help me fold this piece of fondant. So do you see how I placed them about 2 inches apart, and then I'm squeezing it to make little impressions here. And I tried folding in the edge and then realized it's much easier if I just flip this over and tuck in the edges. If you tuck in the edges, it's going to look cleaner and not unfinished. So I tuck the edges in first, and then I use those little marks that I made with the skewers to help me fold these pieces of fondant. Your fondant must be the right consistency to be able to hold up to folding without cracking. So this is my marshmallow fondant, and I always add Tylose powder to it. The Tylose powder added makes the fondant stretchy and helps it resist cracking and tearing when you're folding it like this. So now after I do that one, I want to do the same thing on the other side. So I flip it upside down, fold in the edges to give it a clean look, place it on top of the skewers, and then just run my fingers over there to get the little wrinkles in there, and then just squeezing it just to give this a little motion and make it look like fabric. So now I want to get these together in the middle because they're going on the very top of the cake, and I just want to trim this a little bit. You see how I'm holding that on an angle? That just thins the fondant out so it's not so thick and bulky. So let's go over to my cake. That cake is right out of the refrigerator. That icing is cold and hard, so I'm not going to mess it up. So I'm just placing these in the right position. And then those tails were a little too long, so I'm just taking my scissors and trimming off the excess fondant. I don't want too much fondant on here because I want to be able to put the bow on top and have it sit flat on the cake. So let's make the bow. And I rolled out this blue fondant really thin. Again, it does have that Tylose powder in it. I cut that in half. I put one piece on top of the other, and then I cut either side. I know I make bows really weird. This is just how I do it. I lift the fondant up so it doesn't stick. I start down on one side, go up in the middle, and then try to stop at the same place on the other side. And I tested that on my cake, and the bow was a little too tall, so I just wanted to trim it just so it wasn't as tall. And now I'm going to take one piece and smooth out that top edge, get a little bit of water on the inside and fold it in half, and then fold it up and down and do the same thing for the other one. And then I'm cutting straight pieces in the middle just so they sit flush. Get a half paper towel, fold it in half and half again, roll from one end to the other and stick it in each of the loops. That way they won't dry flat. And now I need to make the centerpiece, so I'm just cutting a long rectangle out of fondant. And again, I want to fold in the edges, that way it gives it a cleaner look, and I'm just flipping it back and forth like an accordion. I'm folding it. And then I just want to cut off the ends, and I'm getting a little bit of water in between all those pieces and stick them together. And it was a little too long, so I trimmed it, get a little bit of water behind it. I'm going to lift that up and tuck it behind. So I need to lift the bow up and turn it upside down so I can press that piece back down. Now I'm putting the bow on the cake, and it is still a little soft, so I'm trying to get this into the correct position. And what I need to do is stick my Dresden tool in there. I'm opening the loop at the very bottom to spread it out so it won't fall over. You want the loops to be open as wide as possible. That way the bow won't collapse as it's drying. And then whoops, I have all this extra fondant showing here. So I'm just taking my Dresden tool, no, that's an X-Acto knife, and I'm cutting out that excess fondant and just removing it. And then since I pressed the fondant down so hard on the top, it did create a little dent. So I'm taking some of that same American buttercream that I used to ice the cake, and I'm just filling in that dent. And then I ran my spatula under a little bit of water just to smooth everything out and make it look nice and pretty. And now, sorry, I'm a little out of frame, but these loops kept collapsing in. So I'm taking these skewers and I'm just inserting it into a loop and then pulling it out slightly and then inserting the skewer into the cake. That way it can dry to the correct shape. Got a little bit of piping gel under there. I'm going to put that back in the refrigerator. Now I'm making some generic flowers. These are just little hydrangea, and I have this little cutter set. I'm not sure where I got that, but these daisy cutters I can find and link in the description for you. And I press the fondant on there. I find it's a little easier to get the impression in here, and I get a cleaner cut when I do it that way. So I just cut the fondant around it, flip it upside down, and then use my thumbs to really press that in there. Use something to really cut that fondant clean. Press it down to transfer the pattern that's on the cutter. And then I have this little flower center mold. I can find a similar one and link that below. And I'm just making little centers for the flowers. I just need one of each color here. And then I'm just dusting. So I have some blue dust and some purple dust, and I'm just shading in these flowers just to give them a little bit more visual interest. And here's all the flowers. I'm just going to set those aside. Now I got this flower on Amazon. I will find it and link it below. I want to wrap that centerpiece because I want that to stay white. So I just have a little bit of plastic food wrap that I'm wrapping around here and making sure that centerpiece is completely covered, and I cut off the excess. Then I have my airbrush machine, and I want this to be purple. So I have purple airbrush coloring. You must use airbrush coloring in an airbrush gun. And the key is to do a couple light coats. So I did a really light coat, stuck it in a styrofoam block, let it dry for 10 minutes, and then I'm adding another coat. So I'm making sure that I get underneath the petals as well as on top. And I ended up doing 3 coats total and let that dry. Then I got my cake out of the refrigerator using my dry paintbrush just to remove any excess cornstarch, and I can remove that plastic piece and shape these petals. I stick the bottom part into a straw and then cut the excess off, and then I stick the straw into the cake and just arrange the petals in the correct position. And now I'm just arranging these simple daisies together. So I did 2 of each size, and I'm just putting one on top of the other, get a little bit of water underneath where I'm sticking the centerpiece, and I'm doing the same thing for the smaller blue one. And then I'm angling a toothpick down into the cake. That way I can hook this flower on here so it's not going to fall off. I got a little bit of water behind each one of these before I stuck them down. And also putting down these little hydrangea flowers as well. And then I want to wrap a ribbon around the base, cut it, get a little bit of glue on the base and on the back of that ribbon, and wrapping it around, and where it overlaps in the back, get a little bit more glue down, and then press that down for a nice complete look. Now I need to remove the skewers and the paper towels, and here is the final cake. How beautiful is that?
So there you go. How cool is this cake? I just love the color scheme of this. It was purples, shades of purple and blue, and I just love how it came together. And what makes this even sweeter is that this cake was for a bridal shower, and I also made tons of cakes for Sydney throughout the years, but here is a picture of her that her mom sent me of the Sweet 16 cake that I made for her. And now here she is, a young bride, and I am just so grateful to be a part of their celebrations over the years. And it's one of my favorite parts of cake decorating, that I get to be a part of these kids' lives, from making their birthday cakes all the way to their graduations and showers and weddings. I'm just so grateful that I can be a part of it. Now this cake on the inside, the top tier is a 2-layer torted 5-inch, and the bottom tier is a 2-layer torted 7-inch. And I have a video where I talk about when I tort and when I don't tort my cakes, and I will link that in the description. It feeds 25 to 30 people, and how much did I charge? This one was $400. So I think that's it. What new techniques did you learn in this video? I would love to know. Leave it in the comments below. And just a reminder, I have ebooks with all of my favorite recipes. I have my signature scratch pound cake recipes, my best Dr. Cake mix recipes, all of my buttercream icing and filling recipes, along with my favorite numbers and my favorite fonts. So they will all be linked below. And I do have a Cake Academy membership program where I can help you elevate your cakes to the next level. All of that information is in the description. And I just want to thank you all again, and I'm trying not to let this reflect into the camera, but I recently got my silver play button plaque, and I would not be here without you guys, and I am so grateful for your support, and I can't wait to help you more along your cake decorating journey. Trying not to shine this in your face. Please like this video if you liked it, and if you're enjoying my tutorials, I would be so grateful if you could buy me a coffee. My link is down below. And I would love it if you would keep in touch on socials and you could check out my website. And if you want to stick around, you can watch this video next and hit subscribe and the bell if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching. I love you guys, and remember, it's cake, have fun. I will see you on the next one. Bye.